Hi everybody, this is Angel Arts, and this is another vlog for session number 10. I can't believe it, we're actually at 10 now. I can't just do my hand. After this I can't do this with my fingers anymore, because, well, I guess I could do that, but that's kind of awkward. But anyway, we're in session 10. As usual, spoilers abound if you haven't gone through all of the session 10 festivities. Feel free to watch that before you start watching this vlog. So, session 10 was sort of a conglomerate, I love that word, of two sessions, I guess, because the unfortunate thing is we had to cut our first attempt at doing session 10 short, mostly because something was going on. I think there was a guy that came in for the cable or something that someone that Andrew was expecting earlier that day ended up coming later that evening, and he unfortunately was not able to participate. And since Andrew is the one who sets up the Skype chat for us, without him, we can't broadcast to his live stream, obviously. And he told us to go ahead and continue playing without him, because of the stuff he had to take care of with this gentleman, but we decided that it made more sense to just wait till the following time we could meet, because A, we couldn't do it live, so people who wanted to watch it live wouldn't have that opportunity to do it, and B, um, Blaze and Andrew wouldn't be there, and that's not really any fun if not all three of the characters, the three members of the Reignites, weren't there. It didn't really make much sense for us to do it that way. And one of us could have recorded it and posted it through Andrew's channel, but at the end of the day, we just thought it made more sense, because we only had gone through maybe 45 minutes of play when that ended up happening. But the other reason that we had to end quickly is we had to sort of step back. And this happens from time to time. The players and the DM sometimes need to step back and talk about the campaign. If we have specific concerns, or if there are specific things that we wanted to discuss amongst ourselves outside of the game, which is the right thing to do. I think that there is definitely, for most things, if you have a specific concern, if something in particular, if there's something that you want to share to the group or privately with the GM, if it can wait till after the session is over, that's usually best, depending on what it is, depending on the situation. If it's something that's more timely, like one good example is, and this has happened in some of my other campaigns in the past before, including ones that I haven't posted online, but if you are the type of person who either you are not as aggressive, or your character is not aggressive, and there's a scene where all of the characters are having a discussion, they're having a meeting or something and they're about to make a very important decision, and either because you personally are not as aggressive to get in there, or your character is not aggressive to get in there, but every now and then he or she tries to get the attention of the group to say something, but other characters end up overpowering that, not on purpose. It's just sometimes some characters or players are more aggressive when it comes to role-playing, and therefore such a person might, not have a chance to put their say in to help contribute towards that decision. It does, by the time, if you wait till after the session is over, obviously it's too late because the decision's already made. So I personally find it very important to have the ability to pause the game. Either the players can pause the game or the DM can pause the game. I have definitely paused the game several times. You've actually seen me do it a couple times in previous campaigns, where I just pause and say, okay guys, just so you know, X, Y, and Z, normally it happens when I think the players are about to do something that they don't intend to do, that could disrupt how things are going with the campaign in such a way that in such a way that would just in general be troublesome. Would be troublesome. Not because it's something that I don't want them to do or because I'm railroading them to do something else, but normally it's because if the players don't realize something that the character might realize. That's one example. If the players is about to do something, but there's one aspect of it that they're not taking in consideration, but I think their character realistically would take that into consideration, and if they didn't, if I didn't point it out to them, that they'd end up like really shooting themselves in the foot when realistically the character would not have shot themselves in the foot. If that makes sense? So sometimes I would pause the game and just take a step back and say, hey guys, yada yada. And sometimes it can be a little bit more serious if, you know, things get really heated, for example, and it happens too. Things get heated between players, and, you know, I have to like, you know, be a moderator a little bit just to make sure that things don't go out of hand. It's important as a GM to try to be cognizant of that and pay attention to that. So anyway, going back to our specific situation, the Sinlyn trials, there were some things that all of the players, I think, wanted to discuss with Devin, and I think Devin wanted to discuss it with us too. And I don't think it was anything that was that big of a deal, honestly. It was just something that we wanted to. It's just something that we thought would be important to discuss, and the goal is to try to, like I said, it's a team effort. The whole campaign as a whole is a team effort, and you want everyone to have fun and have a great experience, and as much as possible have every single person, like the players, get what they're looking for from the campaign as humanly possible, within the capabilities of the GM and from the other players. So we did have that little powwow. We discussed some things, went over some things about the campaign, things that we would like to see moving forward, stuff that we would like to see more of, stuff that we would like to see less of. You know, Devin, I thought, was very good about taking the feedback. And then we came back after a couple of weeks of hiatus, mostly because somebody was sick one week, and then another person couldn't meet the other week because of stuff at work or stuff at school. So we ended up coming back to finally finish up this session. So, and I think that it shows that the discussion that we had was very positive and ended up leading to, I think, a much better experience with the session itself. So, talking about session 10, I think we all discussed how well we thought that this was paced. It was very clear that Devin was trying very hard to get us into the action, like getting us to Dracu. He heard loud and clear that that's what we were trying to do. He doubled back once or twice, but then we were like, no, we don't really want to do this. And honestly, part of it was because we didn't want to do one of the things because we thought it would take too long, and we wanted to get the Dracu. We got into the ship and got to do the whole searching around, and finally got to find Wambach, and then we got to get into this big fight with the pirates, and got to take down Dracu, and that was really cool. And I know that Devin said he had a lot more about Dracu prepared that he would have wanted to do. One of us, unfortunately, had to leave the session early because of stuff that they needed to do the following morning, early the next morning. They couldn't be out too late that night. And so Devin mentioned that if he had been given that extra hour, he would have given more of a fleshed out experience with Dracu, but at that point he thought it would be best, and I agree with him, thought it to be best to just close that particular chapter, that side story, so we can move on to whatever is next. I really did enjoy Wambach's character. I think Devin has played him in such a way that he is a bit of a comic relief, quite of a comical kind of person without trying to be. I definitely am looking forward to interacting with him more in the next session, which I think Devin is said that he would. And yeah, overall, I'm glad that we had. I'm glad that the story was able to make some progress. Um, and as Andrew was saying, we don't necessarily, when it comes to pacing, like it doesn't always mean, that doesn't always necessarily have to mean that we get into a combat or we get into fight. It's not necessarily that. Yes, that is a big part of it, but pacing, by pacing we mean stuff should progress or stuff should happen, and you don't want the players to either feel like they're running around in circles, or that they are taking several sessions to get from point A to point B if it doesn't have to. Because if you're going from point A to point B to point C to point D to point E to point F, um, it feels like filler. And to Devin's defense, much of that can be just simply because of the choices that the characters make. If they are trying to accomplish some sort of goal and their decisions lead to something that takes longer, that leads to a elongated process, yes, that can happen. And as a GM, when that happens, I try to help as much as possible in the interest of time to speed things up. And again, that goes back to one of the things that I do is, again, I pause and I just say, okay, look, you guys, you're fine to do this. It's okay if you guys want to solve this problem this way, but if you do it this way, we'll spend another hour or 2 hours doing that instead of progressing the story. When there is an option, there is another option that you could do this instead, and you know, most of the time what I'll do is I'll try to like input that in the game, like without pausing, inputting that in the game either through an NPC, or I make the characters roll a die of some sort, and you know, if they roll a certain value, then it gives them a hint of a way that they could do something faster or do something more efficiently. Again, in the interest of pacing. Again, it's not. I don't consider that railroading. It's more like you're trying to help the players along so that their experience ultimately is a fun experience. Like at the end of the day, you have to make sure that the players and the characters are having fun. And for me, I would much rather that the GM did do what he or she needs to do to guide us, so that at the end of the day we can still make the choice. Like if at the end of the day I drop this hint, or I just tell them up front, hey, if you do things this way, it's going to take a lot longer for us to get from point A to point B. We might not even get to Draku, or we might not even get to that big thing that you're trying to do for another session until the next session if you do this. And if the players are still welcome to still choose that, they can still decide to choose that, knowing what I just warned them of. And if they do choose that because yes, we want to do this. I know it's going to elongate the process, but we want to do this. This is what we want to do. Then that's great. That's great. But most of the time, you know, I think that if I were to bring up something like that, most of the time it's for a good reason, and I think most of the time the players or characters will agree that, oh yeah, you know, that would make things a lot more efficiently, or that would make things a lot faster. And again, this is all within the context of how realistic it would be for the characters, I think, to be able to figure this out, or for one of their NPCs to mention something. So yeah, pacing is a big thing. That's probably going to be the last time I'm going to talk about it, because I feel like I've talked about pacing for the last sessions, and I don't want to, you know, I don't want to wallow in it way too much. But yeah, so anyway, that's really a lot that I have to, I guess, to discuss for session 10, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the next act, the next main side quest thing for session 11, and yeah. So thank you guys for watching, and until next time, love yourselves and love each other.